start with the PTO Center. This is positioned on the front of the chassis. This device is used for measuring air pressure, which we then use to calculate wind speed. When the air is stationary and the car is passing through the winds, we then back calculate and calculate car speed. This is just one of the sensors that we use to calculate car speed. We also use the wheel speed sensors and the Correvit sensor. The lap trigger is positioned in the side pod and it interacts with a device on the track. We use this device to tell us when we've completed and started the next lap. The signal comes from the side pod through the electronics into the processor. The processor is positioned here and interacts with the telemetry. We also have transponders on the car. These are given to us by the FIA. There are 3 altogether. We have one in the chassis here, and then one on each side of the chassis here and here. These are used by the FIA to check that this is the chassis that we homologated. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
This time we're going to have a look at the driver's seat. So here it is. We got a nice car cut in half. You can see the carbon seat in here, the right side of it. Pretty low here, where we sit with our bump. It's very, very low and just a couple of millimeters, above the ground. And with the bump here, at 300 kph, you can really feel the car, how it's skating and, touching the plank a little bit. That's sometimes, when you see the cars, spitting some sparks out at the back, that we can really feel here with our bump in here, because it's very close to the ground. As you can see, there's not much in between there. Our feet, then our legs come here to the front. Feet here in the pedals, throttle pedal, brake pedal. Obviously the feet are much higher than where the bum and the lower back is, so we're not sitting in the car more than anything. We're really laid back and almost like a nice smooth sleeping position. You have enough support. Obviously side support is very important if we have high-speed corners, that you're not sliding to the left or the right in the car. That's quite important. Then you got the bells, obviously, which are keeping us very tight in there, which is also important. Important to have good bells, which don't loosen after a couple of laps, but normally we're quite good with that. And here we got one seat out, and you can see I can pull it up with one finger. They're really, really light. Full carbon, weigh 1.5 kilos. And that's what a Formula 1 seat looks like. Click here to subscribe.
This time we're going to look at the air horn. The air horn is a device which takes the air from the roll hoop and supplies it to the engine. It's quite a critical design in that it has to integrate into the roll hoop, also not get affected by the driver's head, and distribute the air evenly in between the cylinders in the engine.
Matt talked about the air horn previously, and now we're going to have a closer look to the radio system which is installed in the car. Basically the system is located here under the seat. The cable which goes directly to connected goes under the seat and comes back into the helmet. I mean, basically what everyone tries to do in a Formula 1 car is to make the devices as lightest as possible, so it's a real challenge, and of course radio communication is one of the most important.
Now fuel 11, Esteban.
Copy, fuel 11. Of course we have different codes to make the communication shorter and more efficient, and it's very important in terms of feedback from the driver, in terms of strategy during the race. It's something very important. It's a very important tool which, of course, brings up new ideas and new decisions live during the race or qualifying. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
This time we're going to have a look at the GPS transmitter, which is located here. Each team needs to use this hardware, which is provided from Riedel Communications. It's quite an interesting and important device for teams, for the FIA especially as well. This thing tells the FIA and the teams where the car is exactly on the track, so it's quite fundamental and important for strategy, to know where your car is. For the FIA, it's very important for yellow flags. When they declare one sector yellow, they know where each car is and when it enters the yellow flag sector. And then I, as a driver, get my yellow light on the steering wheel, so that is my indication I need to back off. And obviously the stewards have a close look on that. If the driver doesn't back off, we get a penalty. So yeah, it's all tracked by this thing, the GPS tracker.
This time we're going to talk about the telemetry system. The telemetry system takes data from all the sensors and systems on the car and feeds them back to this processing unit. This processing unit then passes the data through the telemetry aerial and back to the pits where it's processed. Over a race weekend we can collect up to 20 gigabytes of data.
This time we will talk about the pedals, which are located here. We have the throttle pedal, which is made of carbon fiber, and the brake pedal as well. It's a quite important tool to be measured with the driver's position, because of course the angle of your foot and the length of your legs, it's very important, and it's influencing a lot on how you brake. When we approach the braking, you try to get the most from the downforce. This means that you try to brake as much as possible in the beginning, where you have the most grip. And then of course when you approach the corner and reducing the downforce by reducing the speed, then you start to release the brake slowly until you get into the corner. So basically the challenging part is to get into the corner with the right amount of speed. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
The SDL box is positioned here under the driver's seat. This data unit monitors all the accelerations on the car. This data is then used for TV footage and also for safety, particularly if the driver has a crash and acceleration limits are reached. It triggers a warning light for the safety crews at the track. The Correvit sensor is positioned here underneath the chassis and is an optical sensor which looks at the ground. It measures both longitudinal and lateral speed. We use this data in combination with the data from the pitot to calculate headwind and tailwind, also aerodynamic effects on the car, and also whether we're following a car in front and how that affects the car. The SECU is positioned here on the floor underneath the driver. The SECU is the heart of the car. It takes all the information from the driver interface, the steering wheel, and then uses it to control the engine, the gearbox, and all the systems on the car. It's a very important part of the car. If it stops working, the car stops. This time we're going to have a look at the damping system on the car. On the front axle, we isolate the roll damping versus the heave damping. Here you can see the side dampers, which control the roll damping, and here you can see the heave damping, which controls the vertical damping. These systems are tuned circuit by circuit to get the optimum performance out of the car, both aerodynamic-wise and mechanical grip-wise, and often tuned for driver preference. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We're going to have a close look at the knee padding, which is located here. It's not a very technical part, it's basically a comfort thing for us drivers. You can see it's a foam, which is quite thick. It needs to be minimum thickness of 25 millimeters by the FIA. Me as a tall driver, my knees are quite high into here, but which is quite nice anyway because of the high G-force in corners. You know, you see some drivers that wear knee pads so that the legs are tight within the chassis, but mine are, you know, held by the knee padding, which I quite like. So I don't need the extra knee pads because, you know, I don't like them. They're not comfortable. Generally, this thing is here to protect the driver and the knee of the driver. Imagine you have a hard impact, a crash, and instead of the knee banging against the rock hard solid carbon, it is, you know, surrounded by this soft foam, and it's just a safety thing, but also a comfort thing.
This time we will have a closer look to the antennas which are on the car. top, we have the antenna for the TV receiver. Over here, we have the data transmitter antenna, which is very important. It's all the telemetry, which is basically an important tool for the team. We have the radio communication antenna and the GPS antenna. Basically, these are the main antennas which are in the car. And as you can see them, they are quite visible. It's quite a challenge to put all these cables around the car, which are very important sensors and antennas for data transmission for the team. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Today we're going to look at the steering wheel. And because this is split in half, I thought I'd bring a real one and one in one piece to tell you a bit more about it. So let's start at the back here. Obviously this tool is the tool I have in my hands all the time, so my favorite one. At the back here we got obviously the shift pedals, right hand side upshift, left side downshift, and 2 clutches for either side. You know, some corners you have to leave the garage to the left, some corners to the right, so depending on that you use the left or right pedal, and for the starts you use both in different positions. At the front you can see obviously a lot of buttons to get confused, but there's only a couple here, maybe 10, which you really use a lot during a race weekend, such like, you know, by-point find, the radio button, pit limiter, obviously important. And then there's these rotary buttons, we call them, where you can, tune various, you know, electronical settings such as engine braking or for curse recovery, curse boost. And we also have a few special ones here at the back again. We call them toggle buttons. They're a bit special. For example, if I only have a problem in one specific corner, I can change that toggle button for that one specific corner with the setting I want. So that was pretty much it. Thank you as always, and subscribe here.